Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States. And of course, good morning to the rest of the world and to every corner where our 100,000 watt transmitter sneaks in. Well, actually, it doesn't sneak in, it barges in. Good morning to the great studio or geniuses, El Senor Howard and Jack. How's everybody doing this morning?
We haven't found any geniuses yet.
But we're looking for.
We are. Hey, I want to say good morning to Harry. That was some Peter White for you. That's Mr. Magic. Because Harry loves Peter White.
I'm starting to love Peter White.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Good stuff.
I used to play that on Sunny for the Sunday Jazz Brunch. Peter White was always one of my favorites. And we got to say good morning to Brisbane, Australia. Because somewhere down there, somebody's listening to Politics Done Right. Jack, you got some wisdom for us today. In fact, you got a whole page of stuff.
No, maybe a half page.
Yeah. Oh, Henry here has been writing away. So what you got, man?
Well, I'm asking the question why. I'm asking the Republican voter, why are the Republicans and some of the Democratic politicians attacking the poor, the women, the old, the migrant, the gay? Because in the corporate world, these groups are considered a liability and fall below the corporate black line. The idea being, if you take from the social safety net, they want to X you off the corporate balance sheet.
Why are they a liability? They're workers, you know?
Well, when they stop working, they become liabilities because they're drawn from the system.
Oh, that must be me because I haven't worked a lick yet.
We know better than that. We know better than that. But you know what, Jack? You're absolutely right. But, an economic system where you're just a cog, that's what happens, an economic system. And that's what we have. And, we've had that for a long time. And, we need to make a lot of modifications to remember, I always draw this picture, and I was telling you before we got onto the show, I was in a long meeting yesterday with some progressive organizers. And it was interesting because, we're talking about the things that we need and so forth. And my thing is like, if we could just get everybody to understand that what we put on the top of the diagram, if we could just have human being on the top of the diagram, life would be so much better for everybody, because everything that we do, the first question that we ask is, how would that affect Jack? How would that affect Howard? How would that affect? We keep asking the questions, but like I did on a panel once, it turned out that we came up with some ideas, and the moderate, the progressive, and the ultra lefty, which was myself. Actually, progressive was me, and this other guy, the Democrat. Then we all came up with some programs and saying this would be great, social this, etc. But then the guy that was the business Republican guy, the first question he asked was, "But how would it affect business?" And the other two folks didn't say much, but I got sort of perturbed, and I said, why is the first question you asking is business? Is humanity there to serve business, or business to serve humanity?
Exactly.
And and that is what that is where we have failed in an economic system that always puts capital as the bottom line. Because once you do that, right, you make all these different compromises on humanity. I mean, when you say things like, we can't afford to have healthcare for all, you've allowed an economic system to be built that makes that a possibility. Does that mean that that person has to die? When you say that we can't feed everybody, or we can have a system that allows everybody to be fed, and this trope that says, there are these lazy people that don't want to do anything. I can make anybody look lazy. In other words, I go to South Park, I go to Studi Wood, I go to Third Ward, First Ward, any one of these places. Go to the bus stop right now and see how many people are there. And then later on, right in that same area, you might see a few vagabonds on the streets. You may see a few vagabonds on the street, yeah. And what our economic system do is it takes those vagabonds that you see on the street and it makes it the image of the people who are poor. It makes these guys that have no desire to do anything, it cauterizes in people's minds that that's why they're poor and that's what it's all about. That's why we can't give them our hard-earned dollars. When the reality is those guys are the exception. I know in some cities it may look like a lot of people, but if you look at the amount of those people in that community that are actually getting up every morning and going to work, most of them at substandard wages, it's a lot of people that are going to work. Most people are going to work. And what the system does is it tries to put so that we can't ask the system to be better for the wealthy to pay more taxes because they use more of our roads with their trucks. They pollute more of our water with the products that they make. So they owe us more taxes. Instead of saying they should do their part, we try to make them seem like they're so much above everybody else, which they aren't. And one of the things we want to do here for all our listeners is to not let the mainstream media's voice, who is nothing many times are the mouthpieces for the ones who are running commercials, the ones who don't want to pay anything, right? We want to make sure that you don't fall into that indoctrinative state that to be truthful, that's where they have us. The fact that we have a state, the state of Texas, where we have laissez-faire gun laws, where anybody or their mother can get a gun, and they say, well, there are some regulations. No, not if you buy it from just somebody on the streets, which you can. You have the right to sell your personal gun. A gun show can't sell it to you, but you have the right to have your personal gun. And we don't see what's wrong, even though we are one of the states with the worst amount of shootings and killings. But hey, it's okay because the Second Amendment said, no, it's not the Second Amendment. It's a gun lobby making you believe the Second Amendment said it's okay for a lot of people who shouldn't have guns to have guns. And it's, again, business over humanity. Every time you watch TV and you see those killings on the news, remember how many killings occur in Houston and around the country that you have not seen on the news. I mean, we have to take responsibility for our own government. When those who like to say our government, something is wrong with our government, there's nothing wrong with our government. Our government is we the people. We decide what kind of government we want. We decide. You have a whole sect right now that have decided that somebody who wants to grab on women's private parts, somebody who has created false universities and taken people to the cleaners, taken their monies away on a lie. A person who has created water companies that have sold nothing but water as something special. A person who has not allegedly, the judge said it, raped a woman. The government is who we decide to make represent us. And there are a group of people, including a large swath of people one would believe would never tolerate or never support somebody so vile against the teachings of Jesus Christ. But yet, for reasons that we talk about and we will talk about in the future, you will pick that person over sensible people just because. And we'll talk about the because another time. Anyway, we have a great show for you today. The title of the show is Let me scroll it up. Egberto, what's the title of the show? Yes to unionization, mainstream media malpractice, and GOP selective compassionate immigration. Remember, folks, if you don't get, we never get to all of the subjects because you come first. And when you call in with whatever subject you want to call in about, we make sure to take your calls first. But again, all this stuff is written as a program already. So you can always go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to get it. And that's our promise to you. But anyway, earlier this week, I got a note that said, Egberto, you are going to love this. And it was a friend whose son participated in a group that got a company that employs about 2,000 people. He got the necessary signatures for them to unionize right here in Texas, right here in Houston. And I'm so proud every time I hear people taking their lives into their own hands, making sure that execs and these guys won't control their destiny. Those guys are heroes to me, and they should be heroes to you as we move on and talk to everybody about unionizing every single company. So without further ado, and for the caller, this is about a 14-minute deal, but so hang on there. I'm going to play it right now, and let's get busy. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today, I have a special guest. Like I tell you guys all of the times, it's the rank and file folks, the people on the ground that make things happen. Don't believe what you hear about these executives or these big shots. It's the people on the ground doing the work. I'm honored to have Kevin Higgins Jr. How are you doing, Kevin?
Hi, how's it going, Alberto? Good to
I
be
am
here.
doing great. Let me tell you, a newspaper article came out titled, Workers with Harris County's Nonprofit Mental Health Provider Seek to Have Union Recognized. Let me tell you, Kevin, I'm one of those people who believe every rank and file worker should belong to a union. Tell me a little bit about what you guys did at the Harris County Mental Health Provider. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so, wow. Okay, so about 10 to 12 months ago, we reached out to CWA and we started discussions on how we were going to create our union. And we've been in touch with our organizers at CWA, and we've been collecting signatures for the last, like I said, 10 or so months. And we've designed a union logo. We've met with, Rodney Ellis and Lena Hidalgo. And we have a lot of support in the local political community. So we're kind of building a little ecosystem here where we can get leverage to kind of state our case and get what we want.
Now, according to the article, you guys haven't seen significant increase in the wages and benefits over the last 20 years or so. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think we got a slight, like 40 cent raise last year. It's not significant. It's not adjusting for the cost of living and the inflation that we're experiencing, and kind of burden as workers to kind of suck it up and take it. But a lot of workers have been here for 20 years and have not received a significant raise or received any kind of expansion of benefits, for instance. Like it's becoming a problem because we're being sort of priced out of the same community that we're serving.
That is amazing. That seems to happen all the time. Now, this is the Harris County. This is a nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's kind of a weird situation because they like to use the term nonprofit when it sort of benefits them, but really we're an apparatus of the county. We're like I guess that's a good question because, like I said, they like to use they like to use certain language when they don't have money. Oh, well, we're a nonprofit. We can't afford these increases, but they have access to government funding. They have access to state funding. They have access to federal loans, and they can, if they wish to, file for them.
Now, the Harris County, the Harris County, the Harris Center for Mental Health, you guys have 2,000 workers. And I imagine if you take a look at it, I imagine the executives that run this particular quote unquote nonprofit, they never suffer not having their high wages, correct? The executives of this organization.
Yeah. So the executives, so it's interesting you say that because they have not been transparent in their salaries. We haven't seen in 8 years. 8 years they have not disclosed what their salaries are, what their bonuses are, and a lot of people are a little frustrated by that because transparency would be nice in this situation. If everybody had to share the burden of pulling up ourselves by the bootstraps and tightening our belts, that's one thing. But you can't ask people to do that while simultaneously not disclosing your salaries or your bonuses.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Now, what services does Harris Center for Mental Health provide to the Harris County community?
Yeah, so we're the largest mental health provider in the state of Texas. So we serve a lot of people. We do everything from crisis intervention, IDD and autism services, emergency mental health services. That's where I work at the Neuropsychiatric Emergency Center and Stabilization Center. Case management. We do jail diversion and kind of jail rehabilitation. Oh boy, the services seem to be endless. The longer I work here, the more programs I learn about that we're involved in. It's endless.
It's extensive. Yeah. It's a necessary service, especially in these times when we have a lot of mental health issues with our population. And it's not just a Harris County population, it's a population of the United States at large. Now, interestingly, people have been trained, they have been indoctrinated over the last several decades, probably 40 years or so, actually more. I don't know if you know, there's this stuff called the Powell Memo that has been trying for decades it's a blueprint to try to disenfranchise people. They don't quite define it that way. And one of the things were to malign unions. And for the longest time, unions have been maligned. And the people that would benefit the most from unions have been convinced that unions are not good for them. That's why I was so excited when I saw the work of a young person like yourself actually engage your workforce to ensure that you got enough signatures to make forming a union a reality. Tell me about how you accomplished that.
Yeah, so we worked very closely with CWA, and we have a lot of great people within our own organization, and we kind of set this foundation work for networking, setting up forms of communication, message boards, getting the word out within the workplace, and then kind of having workshops about how to meet and reach people at work, and kind of just the do's and not to do's of approaching people about forming a union. And there was a lot of work, a lot of meetings that went down, and we kind of had to organically create this environment so we could do the work,
Now, Now, what kind of pushback did you get from the executives?
So far, there's been a lot of like double speak, kind of like, oh, well, we don't think a separate organization should be getting in between us and our employees.
Of course.
There's a lot of like famous tropes that like a lot of like anti-union tropes that kind of get thrown out there. I want to, there's a lot of like that kind of language. I haven't experienced anybody confronting me about my union activity or participation, but I know that some of my colleagues, brothers and sisters, have felt some of that. But I can't personally myself speak to like individual, any altercations. But so I think we have seen some statements publicly by Wayne Young, who's the CEO, basically kind of doing like a double speak, kind of not wanting to really, not wanting to address the issues that we're presenting, saying things like, oh, well, I have an open office. My door is always open.
Of course.
Anybody can come in. But we know that dynamic, there's a power dynamic. There's a power imbalance in that.
Well, the fact
situation.
of the matter is, if they really cared, they wouldn't have left you guys hanging for decades without a pay increase, a substantive pay increase. Now, one of the advantages you guys seem to have over, let's say, unionizing many other places is that you had the actual support. Or it seemed to me like, based on what I'm reading, you had the support of Lina Hidalgo and Rodney Ellis. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, we had kind of a little press event with the media on Thursday. And there's a Houston Chronicle article about that. And they were really gracious with their time. And we're able to, it's great having people like that back us.
Judge Lina Hidalgo and Commissioner
Rodney Ellis, yes.
I mean, and that is so important, that a part of government comes in and say, yes, we are standing up for the people, and that we know how the system have left many so aggrieved. Now, if you had first of all, like I said earlier, many people have been indoctrinated into a false belief that unions are not good. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to do what you and your team has done at the Harris Center for Mental Health, to start a union? Like I said before, corporations have unions. They call them trade unions. They call them all kinds of the metallurgy union, all these things where they get together so as a force they can attain something. In your case, they try that to make employees not do that. What would be your advice, first, to convince the employees that unions are a necessary thing, and secondly, have the courage and the fortitude to do it?
Yeah, so one thing that unifies all of us is we all have a boss and we're all workers, So when you can kind of get down to kitchen sink politics and talk to people about their day-to-day issues, like gas, the price of gas, price of all these amenities that have gone up, and you explain to people in basic terms that, like, if we get a union, our pay is going to significantly increase, and we'll actually have a seat at the table, and we'll be able to democratize our workplace. So when people hear things like democratize your workplace, pay increases, expanded benefits, people are a little more receptive, because there's, like you said, there's been this campaign for the last 40, 50 years, before Reagan, I'm assuming, of anti-union sentiment within our political discourse. But yeah, I mean, when you just break things down, item by item, talk to people about day-to-day stuff, and they tend to relate. They like the idea of a democracy at work.
It is so important, Kevin, and that is what's so exciting. And when I tell you, I am genuinely excited because for all the things that we promote, and that is people taking command of their own lives, people taking command of their own personal economies. That is what you have done. That's what you all have done collectively, which is, I think, one of the most important things to do, to give people hope, to give people, to make sure that people know we can't empower them because they're already empowered. They just need to use said empowerment like you all did to get the job done. The last question I always ask is an easy one, but yet a hard one. What would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Gosh.
I told you.
Oh my gosh. Alberto, you were very thorough.
I won't hold it on. I won't hold you to it, but I just want to say that, just in case there's something else that you wanted to get out, but I'm glad that you got all that you wanted to get out. Kevin Higgins, a hospital transfer coordinator and organizing committee member that got the job done. It was my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, when I saw the article, I really, really was excited. I want to show you a thinking process. And welcome aboard, Alistair Waters from Conroe, Texas, and Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Texas. Thank you guys for being here. But I have a bone to pick with Eric. Eric says unions would cost nonprofits more to run. Okay, because you're saying if you pay a living wage to the person who works for a nonprofit, somehow that increases costs? Yeah, I think so. But you know what? They're doing the work. They deserve the pay. Now, there are a lot of nonprofits out there that sometimes you wonder. Many of these hospitals are set up as nonprofits, and the executives are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we don't see people complain about that. But my God, you ask the worker who would get a good salary, and in getting that good salary would circulate more of the money in the economy, which would increase the economy for everybody else. Oh, somehow that's a bad thing. I just want to remind you that in 2018, and this is the latest data that I found after I saw that message from Brother Hayes, the CEO of the Red Cross in 2018, Gail McGovern, made $694,000. Let's remember that most of the people who are doing work under the mantra of the Red Cross are volunteers working for free. Many of them are. Look, many a times the people who are doing all these works for nonprofits are people the nonprofit gets to volunteer, while the execs get all these humongous space. I'm saying I want them well paid too, but let's be fair here. Anyway, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. All lines are open now that you can call. Well, all but one, because Brother Harry is on the other end of the line. So let's go ahead and bring in our good friend, El Señor Harry, who Howard pleasured with some good music he asked for. How you doing, Harry?
El Señor, good morning. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Muy bien to you as well. To edifying Alberto Willis. I like what you put there, that video you played with Kevin Hagen. And as I've said on this show many times before, unions are your friend. They will get your benefits up. They will help get you better pay. And I hope and pray that what happens with Amazon, those people that were fighting Amazon and Jeff Bezos, is that they get their union. I know they've been getting a lot of pushback from Jeff Bezos because they don't want to work for slave wages. And then if unions were such a bad thing, as you mentioned there, Roberto, why did UPS get their deal last year so they could get better pay? Unions are not a bad thing. They should not listen to that nonsense. What that is again, it's the employer and their greed. And and like you said, the shareholders of these companies and the Milton Freeman and the Arthur Lafferker that you mentioned many times on this show is just about greed, and it's about screwing the workers and misleading the workers for the work that they do. I was also going to mention another thing. When Patrick, who was talking about the undocumented workers, I should not say that, because when I thought about what you said, Roberto, and you're right, human beings are not illegal. And I was listening to Arnie Arneson. He was talking about that very thing in the last half hour of her show. He mentioned undocumented, but she used the word illegal. And human beings are not illegal. It's just they're not. The ones that aren't born here aren't documented. And when I say when you come to this country, you do it the Roberto Willis way. You go and take the citizenship test. You get your green card like you did, Roberto, and you do that. Now, it's not as easy for everyone to do that, and they try to do a quota to try to stop people. And a lot of that is because they don't want too many black people or brown people here. It's just discrimination and racism. And like I said, our system is a joke. And those, as far as immigration, that is a joke. And it's just they want to exploit people. And those people, as Patrick pointed out, that hire these people, they're the ones that need to be prosecuted for breaking their own joke of immigration laws. And I'll mention one other thing. My brother and I were talking because I just found out that Ron DeSantis suspended his campaign for president. And my brother and I were talking a few days ago, and he thinks, this is what he thinks. He thinks what's going to happen if Donald Trump does get convicted before he is the nominee, he'll make, if he becomes the nominee, I should say, he'll make Nikki Haley the vice president, and if the Republicans should win and Donald Trump is not going to be president, then Nikki Haley will assume his position, and then she'll pardon him, because she did mention weeks ago that she would pardon Donald Trump if she became president. I was wondering what
she did. I mean, look, that your guess is as good as mine, but she did say that. So if she said that, and it wouldn't surprise. I think also because she beats so far in the poll, and like I said, so far without any pushback from Democrats yet, she is up by anywhere from 5 to 10 points over Biden in a head-to-head. And a lot of this has to do with it. I've come to the conclusion that everything that Biden does is really filtered through his age. And Americans just don't want a very old president if they can avoid it. And, so all the good things that have been successful in an economic system like we have, which is what has occurred with under Biden, it just goes over the heads of many because, again, they're just seeing Biden. Now, as far as but again, like I said, that's what we have right now. But Harry, I got another call coming in, so give me a quick closer.
Okay, a quick closer. Thank you, Howard, for playing The Avenue by Bonafide. I liked your comments about that song. I thought you and Jack would love that song. And thank you for playing Peter White. And I'll keep sending you more songs. So you all three of you guys keep edifying. Oh, I did mention one other thing. Mitt Romney. I was wondering, I sent you an email, Roberto. I want you to play, when you get a chance, play the Mitt Romney speech of Donald Trump being a con man, a fool, and playing the American people for suckers. I said that last week.
I'll look for that because that is something I would want to play. You're a good man. Thank you very much, Harry. You have a good one. Okay.
Gotta remind people. It's very important.
Thank you, brother. You too. Let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny. How are you doing?
Morning, everybody. It's a toasty 42 degrees outside my front door. Telling you. Yeah. But it was pitch dark outside, so my being naked and wrapped in a blanket didn't matter much. There's another way. There's another legal way for people to enter this country and become citizens that Harry neglected to mention. You know what that is?
Have money.
Well, yeah. No, I'm talking about the poor people who are scared and frightened out of their countries in order to become workers here on the cheap, under the table. They show up at the border. They're supposed to be able to show up at the border at the nearest station where you've got Border Patrol agents. And guess what? They're allowed to, by international law and our own law, allegedly, reportedly, to say who they are, where they're from, and they're seeking asylum, or they like to be citizens. And then they're supposed to be processed. But what do? Our border guards, they chase them away, and they kind of encourage them to go underneath the underpass. And when the border guards when those who are Republicans on the other side of that underpass see them coming up the underpass, then they're allowed to legally arrest them. And that's what they've been doing. The same guys who kick those bottles of drinking water in the desert looking so smug and happy. See, so there's always a way to subvert the law, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, look, the immigration issue is a mess on several accounts, Johnny, and it's our fault for not having the right kind of immigration laws that thinks humanity first. I mean, and secondly, the most important part is our foreign policy. Well, our economic foreign policy in these countries, and we always look at scabs here, the scab. We never look at what's underneath the scab, what's causing the infection. But Johnny, I got to run to somebody else now. Thank you so kindly for calling. And
read John Perkins. Read John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Oh yeah, Johnny, I interviewed John Perkins.
You did?
Yeah, I'm on. Because you said the next time I have a hiatus that I'm going to put a tape show, I'll look for that John Perkins interview. It is still relevant. I'll look for it and put it on. Okay.
Right. That's where we fill in the gaps where you and I can't do it in 2 minutes on the phone with each other.
Exactly. So we'll talk. Thank you, brother. Peace.
Wake up, Joe. Do your foreign policy correctly. Oh, you're going to pay the price. We will too. Have a good day.
There you go. Thank you, brother. Peace. Anyway, folks, that was actually very much so. So, I mean, anyway, folks, 713-526-5738. Let's go ahead and go to Hunter. Come on in, Hunter. Hunter, you're on.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello, you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, I was trying to think of a good question to ask you.
Okay.
All right. So, you know how trying to think of the name of the regulation that Reagan got rid of, fairness doctrine.
Oh yeah, that messes up our news. Yes, exactly. The fairness doctrine. Go ahead.
The fairness doctrine, Glass-Steagall, the EPA rules. If they get rid of something and they realize that it was put there for a purpose, why don't they put it back?
Yeah, I can't argue with that, sir, at all. You're absolutely right.
I mean, they obviously see it. They have to know some type of history to even be there, I would think. Why can't they put it back in place?
Hunter, what it takes. Yeah, Hunter, first of all, you're right. And what it takes, however, the good thing about it is see how you could articulate that on the phone. You could say, oh, you remember the Hunter doctrine? You remember Glass-Steagall and what it did to separate the investment banking from banking? And you remember that? What happens, Hunter, is that you are well read on policy, right? And because of that, you know these things and you can actually discern what creates certain types of problems. Now, the average citizen, many times not even their fault. They just don't have the time to go into these details. And that's why I said leadership is good leaders are so important, because good leaders can digest these things and put it out to people so that they can effectively elect the right people who would do the right thing. One of the expectations I have with this show, one of the expectations I had a long meeting yesterday with some great progressives. One of the ideas behind these things is let's have media do its job. I had a piece to play about the media today. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but it shows perfectly what's wrong with the media. So, Hunter, let me go to Ray. And if I'm left with 15 minutes or so after Ray, I'll play this 7-8 minute video. Okay?
All right.
Thank you, Hunter. You have a great day. Let's go to Ray. Come on in, Ray. How are you doing this morning?
Buenos días, mi hermano.
¿Cómo estás, mi hermano favorito? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to highlight one of the topics of the show, which is kudos to that young man who
Kevin Higgins Jr. Yeah,
Kevin Higgins Jr. Kudos to that young man, Kevin Higgins Jr. for getting his workplace unionized. I actually I'm like you. I'm glad to hear stuff like that because also the cooperation and basically the co-oping with the government. A shout out to Lena Hidalgo and Rodney Ellis, who I
absolutely
think very highly of and support to the highest. And I also want to just kind of say to the conservatives who always want to label Rodney Ellis and Lena Hidalgo. Oh, they're these underground communists. They're these Marxists. Guess what? You know what? The thing that the conservative right wing hates to admit about people who believe in Marxism, and you have a very esteemed guest that you, Mr. Richard Wolff, who studies Marxist economics. One of the things that you said and touched on in the show is that unlike these, vulture capitalists, people who've been indoctrinated to believe that it's in their best interest to protect the interest of business first over people, Marxists believe that human rights should come first. Now, you could argue over the practices of the Communist Party of Russia and but the ideology is always human rights first.
That is so important, Ray. And the chart that I drew yesterday, that's exactly what I talked about. If you put humanity first, things like capitalism, socialism, all the isms become the secondary issue. And you use the benefits of each system in each area to best support humanity. If you look at it that way, if you then we get the right balance of programs, etc. But Ray, so I was gonna run and play the video now, but another call is coming in, so I may have to tell folks to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to get the link to the story about that. I gave 2 clips of CNN and an interview that they did. I want you guys to see in the same interview, one with Tim Scott, the other one with Chris Coons. You got to see how the media operates there. Ray, anything else before I jump to Brian?
Oh yeah, if you want to start with the immigration policy, let's dump Trump and all his anchor.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day, sir. Let's go to brother Brian. Come on in, Brian. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, yeah. What I see about socialism, or what you just your caller was just talking about, Marxism, it's always the individual struggle against the big machine, isn't it? Not the other way around.
Well, first of all, it's not the individual struggle against the machine. It's simply humanity first. That's all we want. Humanity first.
Okay, well, I see it differently.
Okay, let me hear it.
The struggle against, I see the struggle against the 453 different agencies that the United States has with departments, Department of Education, the regulations of the EPA, the small business associations that have regulations that they have to enforce. 453 of them the last time I counted. Right?
Okay.
So you take into consideration a man's out there trying to earn a living, right? It doesn't matter who he's working for. He's either working for himself or he's working for someone in the government.
True.
Small business people, they don't want big government in their business.
What is big government? What is big government, Brian?
What is big government?
Yes.
Telling you that you have to not do this because you're not supporting a fish.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and this is where I mean, I don't doubt that there are outdated regulations. I don't doubt that there are bad regulations, but the thing about it is, if I listen to your tonality, you would give the impression as if you want no regulations. The thing about it is, the reason we have a lot of regulations is that we have a lot of products, we have a lot of things out there on the market that can affect human beings. So my question to you is, as opposed to generalizing, we don't want regulations and there are too many agencies, I think what you should be doing is coming out with a specific regulation that you want gone, why it was created, and why you think it was gone. I think if we started having that kind of discussion, it would make more sense than just saying bad regulation. Because let me tell you, I'm going to have the person running for Railroad Commission on our show this week. And there is a part of Texas right now where all the salt water that they threw into these wells, in very old wells, that didn't have the appropriate regulation. Guess what's happening? And you're not seeing it on TV right now, but we have the pictures to show, and let me tell you what's going on right now. The government has created a 3-mile exclusion zone, which means you can't fly your drone, you can't fly the airplanes or anything over this area where these wells have started. These old wells right here in Texas has started to explode. As you know, we're very lax in the CCEQ is very lax in the way we deal with regulations for oil companies here. So my statement to you, Brian, once again is the following. I'm not discussing with you whether about these agencies. I'm saying if Brian has a problem with specific regulations, Brian should tell us what those are, and we can have an intelligent discussion as to why they came to be and why we should get rid of them. And if we get rid of them, what specifically will occur. That's how we can have an intelligent conversation, sir. Go ahead, my brother.
Okay, yeah.
First of all, do you agree with what I just said?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
There is a specific court ruling going before the Supreme Court in the United States about fish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the EPA said that you have to regulate the amount of fish that you catch.
Okay.
And it's made mandatory that someone puts a camera that he has to pay for on a boat to prove that he is legally within the legal limits.
Right.
Now, that's specific. It's going against the Supreme Court right now today.
Yeah, I know that law. That law has more dangers than just the fish, because what that law is going to tell is who has ultimate authority on a law passed by Congress. In other words, Congress don't write laws that are specific to anything many times. Now Congress will have to write laws that are specific to prevent it from being overturned by the Supreme Court, because ultimately that story is as follows. The government is telling a fishery or a fishing boat what they must have to prove that they're not exploiting the ocean. I don't see anything wrong with that. You have to buy a license for your gun. You have to buy, if you have a car, you have to buy certain parts for that car. There's nothing wrong that says if you are going to be a fisherman fishing out of the commons, the ocean being the commons, that you have to have this equipment. There should be absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a cost of doing business. Now, that cost will be recovered in the sale of the fish and that other stuff. Here's what gets to me. That law, the simplistic nature in which people like to quote that law, they miss the point. The reason you want to overturn that law in the Supreme Court is so that an oil company later on, when the government doesn't say, well, you have to put casing in a well at this level, if they don't specifically say that, the oil company can come back now and say, hey, based on that Supreme Court judgment that occurred with the government doesn't have the authority to put a camera on a boat or a person on a boat to do whatever. That is how the Supreme Court works. So this little case that you have going to the Supreme Court has huge implications to our to further regulations. And that is what people like yourself so far hadn't gotten. When you understand that, you'll see how that is a detriment to not only me and many others, but even you. But Brian, I got to go to Augie. But I thank you for bringing that subject up, because that is something that I probably need to cover in more detail. That law, the Supreme Court that's going in, that because a dangerous precedent that it would set if the Supreme Court supports them. All right.
The Supreme Court should support that law.
Well, we'll talk about that some other time, because
you're right. Yeah, put a camera on the boat, a private boat.
Yes, yes, and it's not a private boat. It's a private boat, but it's fishing out of the commons. It's a private boat extracting resources that all belong to us. Okay, Augie, come on in.
That's that thing about Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's not an expert in whatever area these agencies are. The agencies are the experts. They focus on their whatever their agency covers. Supreme Court doesn't. They don't tell doctors how to practice medicine or anybody else. But the Republicans are making it so they can take over what these experts are trying to help the people.
Okay, let me stop you a second, because the Supreme Court, in overturning Roe versus Wade, has just about done that. That's why so many women have to leave Texas to get their their health care. But anyway, continue, Augie.
Yeah, and like people, supposedly Christians like Chick-fil-A, but their supplier isn't so Christian. They're hiring underage workers, and two of them or supplier. So much for Christianity. They don't care about people, as long as they get the cheap fried chicken and everything else, and the vegetables and the products. I was
Augie. You made there's one mistake you just made, Augie. You said except they get the cheap fried chicken and vegetables. Actually, they pay a cheap price for it. But my God, have you been to a Chick-fil-A lately, man? You know, my wife loves Chick-fil-A, and I tell you something, man, they're not all that cheap.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, when you buy a sandwich, I'm still hungry when I leave because it's so expensive.
I hear you, man. You know, it seems like the sandwich switch and the price went up, and their cost for chicken didn't go up really as much as they've raised their prices. That's why their bottom line looks so good, because they're just saying we can take more money away from the regular folk. Anyway, what else going on, Augie?
And when I was a worker, it was a great thing we had unions. It helped me a couple of times because at one time, I remember growing up in the 50s and 60s, we were told if you work in the mailroom of some corporate business, you have a chance to become CEOs. And at that time, it was possible.
You were working in the 50s and 60s, Augie?
Oh, no. I was a student, and they told us at school. You know,
okay. So I was going to say, you sure look too good to be working in the 50s and the 60s, man.
Yeah. No, but in the 50s and 60s, I was facing the the prejudice that was legalized, the hate, the racism.
Mm-hmm.
I got kicked out of a store when I was in third grade. But I didn't realize we moved to a new neighborhood, and I walked to school, and this old man opened a screen door, had a piece of paper, asked me if I'd get him these things at the grocery store, and he had some cash, and he said, "Keep the change, keep the change." Man, that was magic words to me. I ran to the store, and I was brand new to the neighborhood, but I knew there was a store nearby. And there was a lady there, and she looked like one of those TV moms, like Leave It to Beaver's mom. And she was talking to white workers, and I was waiting patiently and thinking, okay, when she finishes, she'll take care of me. But she saw I didn't leave, and then she wasn't so nice anymore. She had this mean face and the ugly voice, and told me in no uncertain terms to get out of there. And I was in third grade, and that's the first time I talked to me like that. And then I ran out. She scared me, and I ran out the door. And then I looked in the window. I rushed in there. I didn't see the sign in the window. But we don't serve blacks. I'm not sure if they use that term. We don't serve Mexicans, Indians, meaning Native Americans, Jews, Catholics, and dogs. And they threw dogs in there to tell how much they hated those 5 groups. And they had like 2.5 strikes against me because I was Mexican heritage, Catholic, and I didn't realize it, but the part of me, we have an Indian in our genealogy. So I had like 2.5 right then and there.
Well, brother, I hear you. Hey, man, got to go, Augie. Look, thank you very much for your words, my brother. We got to go and throw this to the studio, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Hey, studio, how are my favorite peeps doing?
I am just shocked. Why wouldn't they serve dogs? That's just wrong. Augie was going on the list of things, and well, did you have your dog with you? I don't mean to make light of the whole situation because it was deplorable back then, and it's gotten a lot better now.
It's gotten a lot better. But I tell you something, we were talking at our meeting yesterday, and we just kept on saying we need to bring a whole lot of stuff out into the open because a lot has gone underground. And as progressives, me, myself, and these groups was like, we got to find a way to get to people because there's a force out there that's working against us. But anyway, not my time to talk. It's your time to talk and Jack's time to talk.
Jack, what you got?
Media speaketh with corporate tongue.
Except this one that doesn't speak with a tongue.
Yeah. All right. I love that. Anyway, folks, look, thank you all who called in. Please go to politicsandright.com/newsletter and listen to that CNN clip that I did and the article that I articulate. Please, it's very essential that you see that. Thank you, callers. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, everybody. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics and Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.